All right. Now, an official hello to everyone in the group once again. I will share about the outline and what we're going to be covering today. But before we do that, can we just pause writing or whatever we're doing right now and just come into a moment of presence and stillness? I want you to sit up straight, close your eyes, and open the palms facing upward, ready to receive. Find a comfortable position and take a deep breath in, filling yourself up all the way to the top through your nose. Hold at the top and exhale through your mouth. 2 more like that. Deep inhale in. Hold. Feel how full you are. Relax your shoulders. Relax your face. And exhale into full relaxation. And one more, just like that. Deepest breath today. Take what you need. And hold. Remember why you came here. Send love to that place that needs it most. And exhale. With your eyes still closed, imagine the space between your eyes. And now imagine the space from top of your head to your hip bones. Imagine the space between your shoulder blades. And now imagine the space you're holding in your palms. Feel the weight of the air, the weight of the room in your palms. And imagine the room or the building, the house you're in right now. Zoom out your attention to take on in the space you're in. And now bring it back to your heart. Zoom back in, right into your heart. What does your heart need? What is your heart's intention? Place your hands on your heart and take a deep breath in, filling yourself with your intention, knowing it's already set in motion. And exhale with a big sigh. Release your hands. And come back to the room and open your eyes. When intention comes from the heart, it always guides. So I hope you managed to connect to yours. And so the outline for this workshop is to start with an introduction. I'll introduce a little bit myself, and then we'll dive into how dilemmas show up and what they are, and the pain of polarization, like pain when we are being pulled apart in different places, and why is it so difficult. Then I'll explain what IFS is, internal family systems. How many of you are actually familiar with IFS to some extent? I see who have cameras, part of your raising hands. Yes, so you're familiar, great. And then, so I'll share, I'll make it accessible, so it will not be a deep dive. I'll share what the IFS approach consists of and how it's applicable to times when we have inner conflict. After that, we actually will do a very practical exercise of going inside and meeting the parts that might be at conflict and allowing them to meet each other. This is the teaching of IFS, that actually we don't try to pick and choose our favorite part, or the part that makes more sense. We try to meet them, to listen to them, to meet their needs, unburden from the heaviness they're carrying, and only then make a decision, not when we are tainted and influenced by the parts, but when we are in self-energy, which gets freed up when we connect ourselves and unblend from our parts that drive our behavior. And after that, there will be an integration, and also I'll share some next steps, how we can explore it further, and also some upcoming things I have in Ibiza and online. Okay, let's dive in. Let me share my slides. Okay, let me extend this. Okay, we already covered that. So a little bit about me. Some of you have worked with me and know me. Some of you are meeting me for the first time. This is a little bit of a history slide on me. So this is little me. I was born in Latvia. It was USSR back then, so we did not have colorful cameras. So I was a very serious child. And I grew up in Latvia until about the age of 18, so I left after high school. If you have questions about posing on the high school pictures, so do I. I really don't know what we were doing there, but it seemed like a good idea to do that. I think that the point was conformity, to be a cool girl, to be a good girl, but a cool girl at the same time. So after I graduated from high school, I moved to London. I studied business and marketing there. And then my career was I was very driven to succeed. I was very driven to achieve and to work hard in order to, I guess, prove myself in a way. That proving myself later on, after I got married at the age of 28 and broke up with my very, very fast after my marriage. Actually, in our honeymoon, after 6 years of relationship, we broke up there, and then my world collapsed. I kind of say it in passing because it has been 9 years ago, but really after that, everything I knew, like the world, the checkbox world that I knew, collapsed, and I didn't really know who I was anymore. So the only thing I really knew was how to achieve. So I really went into that. So I really worked for promotion, got it, bought myself a bigger place, and just really drove myself to a burnout without realizing so. The only point when I really got that I'm hurting myself by my drive to achieve was when COVID hit and the world paused. And for the first time, so did I. And in that moment, when everything was still, I started feeling a huge sense of relief that I didn't have to follow with the life that I had built for myself, which kind of looked a lot like this: black tie events, award ceremonies, like going out with friends, and it was like all about, doing, and it was exhausting to me. But COVID was the first time when I was like, oh my God, like actually I feel relieved that I don't have to keep up. And also I feel like I'm being punched in the face when I open my laptop for 10 hours straight when I'm working so hard, because I was really not enjoying it anymore. And it didn't fill me with any sense of meaning. So then during COVID, I left for a 3-week holiday to Costa Rica, and I got stuck there for 4 months because COVID, lockdown. I couldn't get back. My flight got canceled. So it was the best thing ever. So I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I can actually slow down. I had my laptop. I was still working from there. But it was the first time when I started meeting people who used to be a lawyer in the States, and now they run a surf shack and they're happy. Used to be a doctor in Netherlands, and now they have a yoga studio and they're happy. And I started seeing this kind of like theme of used to be something successful, and now there's something else and happy, and they're still doing cool things. And somehow in my mentality back in London, it did not compute. I was not expanded. My subconscious didn't know these were options, because in our world, it's like, this is how you succeed, and then you get promoted, and then you get your boss's job, and so on. But I started to realize, if I look at my boss, I could not think of anything worse than his dark circles under his eyes, his really sad weekends driving his very expensive car around, like feeling really, and then like showing off that like during a holiday he worked and was checking emails, and like that makes him cool. I was like, that's my worst nightmare. And that's why I started really questioning. And it was really first time when I started asking my question, like, what would actually make me happy? And at that point I didn't know. And it's a very scary point in life when we know what isn't for us and we haven't figured out what the next step is. So it feels like we're going to stay in this limbo forever. However, I somehow got 20 seconds of courage to come back from Costa Rica, quit my job, sell everything, pack everything in the storage, and just leave without a plan. Really, there was no even any inkling of what might happen. This slide is a bit misleading because I'm like, and then this, but it wasn't then this. It was a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights, studying, worrying, unblocking, working on myself, and so on. That at some point, maybe 9 months later from quitting, I was just following my curiosities. I was not working. I was consulting a little bit in my old profession, but not really doing so, just for the money, not for pleasure at all. And then I started sharing what was helping me. So I put together like a human design workshop, and then people started coming. Human design was a tool that really helped me at the time, and I was so amazed how, people really want to learn about it. So then from that one workshop that was promoted on cafe walls on posters by me scooting around town in Mexico and putting those posters there, somehow these workshops started filling up. I started having a wait list of clients for human design sessions. And then from there, I started building on, and honestly, with no business plan or like real goal of building a business, I was like just kind of allowing what was moving through me to move through me without questioning what it really was. And then somehow now I look back, so now it's 2025, so I left in 2021. So now throughout this time, I also moved countries. I moved away from Mexico and Ibiza. I run retreats. I work with clients one-on-one. I facilitate workshops, and I'm still in process of really following what sparks my curiosity and what I'm in a rabbit hole of. So for the last 2 years, it has been IFS. It has been a tool that transformed me, I feel, the most out of anything I've studied and taught, because it completely rewired how I see myself and how I see others. It has completely rewired how I work with my clients and how I share. Because now, even when a friend of mine is coming to me for advice, I'm like, okay, a part of them is activated here, and there is another part that's resisting, and there is their inner critic coming in. So it's just somehow clicked how we operate in this human realm, and then things started getting easier. So when I feel a fear, I'm like, well, I'm going to wait for it to pass. No, I meet it by meeting the part of me, the little part of me that's scared. Or when I feel unease or anything, I have a dialogue with myself now, which previously was like, okay, so if you want to do something, just go for it. That fear, unblock it by courage. It doesn't work like that. Not for me, and not from what I'm witnessing. And also the results this work has on my clients is really another level. So that's why I'm happy to share it today, and hope it also helps where you are on your journeys. There are a few things I fundamentally believe in, and I just wanted to share them to kind of create this collective space of awareness of what this work and what I stand for. I really believe that deepest clarity, like embodied clarity, can only come when we listen to ourselves, as opposed to pick and choose from the parts that are loudest. Because then, sometimes we're like, this part feels like really like that, there is something that feels like authentic to me, but really it's a very loud survival mechanism. So unless even that is listened to, even what feels really authentic is listened to, and then you can confirm that's the case. It's not real clarity. It's clarity in the moment, but it's not really embodied clarity. So that's one. Secondly, these moments of confusion, doubt, and stuckness, or where we are feeling torn apart, they are not dead ends. It feels like they might be, because I don't know, it's either this or that. But actually, when we meet this and that part, then somehow the creativity starts to flow in a way that you didn't expect. And then something else happens. Now you start seeing option C, D, and the rest of the alphabet, because you start seeing your situation differently. So of course, I can't be like, and now when I get confused, I get so excited. No, but I don't feel it to be as heavy when I don't know what to do, because I'm like, oh, there's something I need to explore. Let's see what other parts I meet. Why is this a good thing? Because when I meet them and unburden the way they carry, more of life force, more of divine energy, more of the sacred energy can flow through me, and more life starts happening and flowing, and the more I can surrender. So that's the aim of the work in reality. And if you're here, it means that you're doing inner work. And they call it doing the work. It's not a holiday. So really applaud you for doing it and for showing up for yourselves. Really, it's not easy. And sometimes I wish, I joke that I wish I just could go back when I went around and judged people and didn't think of any better of it. And now whenever I'm like, feel any judgment, I'm like, what part of me is activated? Like, what is that? Let me journal it. So in a way, things have gotten harder, but so much more rewarding. But we start this quest for our true self, for our authenticity, when one of two things happen. Number one, you experience what true self is like. You have a glimpse when you're like, in that moment of full surrender and satisfaction, where you're like, this is me, this bliss and joy, and just such an ananda, how they call it in Vedic wisdom, just like this pure love and essence, that's me, and that's what I am. So you have had the glimpse, so you start looking for more of those glimmers of that feeling. Another option is that you really know what isn't you. Those parts that overwork, those parts that drive you to painful situations, those parts of neediness and conflict and trigger, they're not you. But in those moments, they can feel like you. But there's no point of just trying to swipe them away and deny entry. They actually are your wisdom keepers. They're trying to tell you something. They're trying to actually unlock. And in fact, those parts that are hurting you the most are trying to drop the weight they have been carrying for a long time, the hardest, and that's why they need to be met. And often those are the parts that you dislike the most. So they need to be welcomed in, not just accepted, but welcomed in. Because there is a difference when I accept you in my house or I welcome you. If I was just like, you come, you're accepted to my house, like you would not want to. So whilst this is a nice notion of self-acceptance, and I don't argue with that, but in parts work, we welcome them with generosity of attention and curiosity and genuine care. And then they start to open up and they release the weight that they still think they need to carry, because they know who is in charge, and that's your true self. And one last point is that I started this, as I said, now in 2021, and very quickly I grasped the idea that I'm here my mission is to help those who are in between. In between what? In between the old self and the new self that hasn't been born. And I just felt such a strong connection to it. But now looking at what's happening now with AI, job market, everything else that's going on in the world, this in between, it's not personal anymore. It's actually a collective era we are entering. And you have felt the pull to leave the old behind and step into something new. Actually, you're getting the call sooner than anyone else. Maybe you already got it many years ago and you're already doing something completely different. Because actually I truly believe, and that's my beliefs, and this is not a fact, but I truly believe that if you have already started feeling like something new is coming and I don't know what, everyone else is going to undergo it when they lose their jobs unwillingly, when they have to face what's happening in the world and with their jobs that they didn't even like anyway. So they will enter a push, which is collective. You have entered it sooner so that you can leave to enter. So that's my belief on the collectiveness of this movement of the in-between. Okay. So from this place, dilemma. We are moving into what we are here to explore. So this is actually not Google, but Oxford Dictionary definition, which I have Googled, of dilemma. So if we would tune into what it says, dilemma, a situation in which a difficult choice has to be made between two or more alternatives, especially ones that are equally undesirable. So this definition, I feel, acknowledges that if you can't decide, even the notion is it's already difficult. It's a difficult place to be. For someone else, it might feel like, well, that's easy, just do that. But what people do when they advise from their part perspective, which most resonates with another part of you that is in a dilemma. But it's actually very hard for us to be very impartial when we give advice unless we are really connected to ourselves, because we give really, like, our parts decide which one we resonate most with. You know, if I was in your shoes kind of situation, that's just a part talking. So, and why equally undesirable? Because often when we are in conflict internally, we are avoiding a feeling which comes with the choice we are about to make. Even if it's a thing that we want the most, chances are it's going to cost a feeling which we don't want to feel. For example, if you want to run a really successful business and want to be very seen and so on, there is a lot of cost to it. It's your time, it's exposure, it's commitments you'll have to do. You'll be like, your life will be different, and that's very scary. So there is this undesirable feeling. On the other hand, you don't want to stay where you are because you are also not desiring that feeling, and that's why dilemma occurs. Okay. Nope. So I'll share. I'm glad you're familiar with IFS, so I will briefly share IFS in a nutshell, because we hear it a lot. I feel like, especially in the recent few years, this has become a very big movement, really, in therapy, in self-help, in a lot of spaces which do inner work. In essence, it's a approach to therapy, approach to inner work that shares this basic idea that inside of all of us, there are parts. And different parts have different roles. And you might already talk about them without even realizing. A part of me wants this, another part wants something else. Or there's a pull I feel in this direction, but a part of me is holding me back. In any way, there's some kind of intuitive sense that this is what's happening, and whether we realize or not, that's also the language we use. And those parts, they really aren't random. They each do a very important job. And the way they're doing that job is the only way they know how, based on what happened to them, the information they received, or legacy they're carrying without even realizing, which can be even ancestral or social, which is not like a traumatic event, but like a belief you picked up just by being in a space, environment, or having born in a family where it runs in ancestry. So in essence, some parts move us forward, other parts are holding us back. So the ones who move us forward typically are the achiever, the planner, the doer, the inner critic. They're like, come on, let's go, got to do, have lots of things ahead of us. But sometimes they take extreme roles to the point where they can hurt. And other parts, they hold us back, like procrastination, self-doubt, and part that doesn't want to be seen and just wants to hide. There's also other parts that come into picture when this starts happening. So for example, there's a part of you that is hiding, and then inner critic comes in and it's like, why do you do that? I don't like this. Come on, pick your pencils, let's go, let's just do this. But then something else happens and you want to soothe. So maybe binge eating, a glass of wine. There's a part of you that wants to soothe. So what happens? You allow yourself that. Maybe it's maybe it's a chocolate cake, maybe it's a glass of wine, maybe it's a sleeping pill, maybe it's just kind of like doom scrolling or Netflix or just something that zonks you out and it feels good for that moment. What happens the next day? Inner critic is back with more force. And then it's just this vicious circle. And then you're like, I actually don't want to continue this, but the part of you, so there is a part of it's like, this is not me, but the parts are so strong and they're not listened to. So they continue surviving the only way they know how. So this is the essence of description of how actually this work starts coming into picture. And each of these, they have a different name. So the parts that are like, for example, the doer, they're managers, or the procrastinator, they're managers. But the ones that try to soothe in IFS, we call them firefighters. So they're kind of like, oh, this is too much, like, let me soothe, like, putting water on the fire, just kind of like, oh, now I'm good. Even for a moment, I can hide. And there is a third essence in all of it. And there's also, sorry, I forgot, there's also exhales, that these protectors, so the managers and firefighters that are doing all of that, they're doing all of it because they are trying to protect vulnerable parts that we call exhales in IFS. Exhales are those that are typically quite little, and they often carry shame, guilt, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. They kind of like feel very alone in what they're facing. And that's why our inner system builds these protective layers that do all of these jobs. And we'll explore a little bit more of these examples so that it becomes a little bit more clear. And I on purpose picked examples that are quite relatable. So I hope it helps to understand. So yeah, and the work of IFS is really not to get rid of any of it. It's to meet the parts, to listen to them, and allow the self to lead. And self being that part that is there at the core of your being, that is witnessing, but it's not passive like in some spiritual teachings, like a witnessing awareness. It cares. It has a sense of justice. It wants to move forward. It desires soul evolution, but it does so in a very grounded, calm, compassionate way. And I always say that, like, I know I'm not in myself when I'm not curious. So if I'm not like, what part of me is that? Or like not trying to understand the other person who might be aggravated, but like reacting, I know I'm not in myself. So to give you 2 tips on how to recognize whether you're acting from self energy or not. First, is there curiosity? Are you curious about what's going on, or you already have a stance? If you have a stance, that's your part. And second, are there any sensations in your body? Is there anything that's moving that kind of doesn't feel spacious? So, like a sensation in the throat or pain in the chest or a feeling in your body, something is churning, that is not you. That's your part. And it just needs your attention. It's like, ooh, do I recognize this? When was the first time I felt that ever in my life? Was I little? And kind of like asking questions, since when have you been there? And building a relationship, which we'll go a little bit more on today as well. Okay. So dilemma from our IFS perspective, it's when two parts are fighting. First question. First question, when we are talking about tuning in, good question to ask is, when I felt it first, is this a familiar sensation? And second is like, what does it remind me of? And allowing like flashbacks, memories come. And then what it is trying to protect you from. I'll guide through a little meditation so you can experience that, and I'll share the recording after. You can keep it. But then depending on the answers, it depends. If you're doing it on your own, meditation is a great way to do that. But also, if those who have experienced IFS work, when we are in sessions, we go really deep because it depends, because parts interact, they give answers. So it's interesting to see what the interaction is, because then it can go into very deep and meaningful dialogues. Okay, so from IFS perspective, dilemma, like when we can't decide, when we feel stuck, confused, uncertain, it's when two parts are fighting each other to determine your behavior. I think it's a pretty clear definition. And really, they take these roles because they're trying to stabilize. One of my teachers is using this example of like when a sailing boat is at sea and it's losing balance, but two sailors go on different sides and trying to do something on each side without communicating to each other to balance the boat, but they're doing the opposite thing. They're actually disbalancing it more. So that's what happens when we are experiencing inner conflict. Then I made these today, and I'm very happy with the graphics, even though they're not entirely on brand. But I thought they were a good representation of parts. So I'll share one example, and maybe for this one, let's make it a little bit more interactive. If those who have cameras off, if you feel like, or if you're able to come back online for a moment, just to interact, whether this sounds familiar to you. So it could be that you have experienced previously a case where there's something happening and you start noticing that you don't like what's happening. Maybe it's in relation to someone. Let's say someone is crossing your boundary, or something in a relationship with partner or someone else is happening that you actively dislike. But instead of being like, no, thank you, with respect, I decline, there is something happens that you are like, mask on, people pleaser. Like you say yes when you want to say no, to keep everyone happy, to be a good girl, to not rock the boat, or to be a good boy if someone is watching and recording. Does that seem familiar? Like kind of like freeze phone, people please response. Yeah. So it's a part that's activated, that thinks that's what it needs to do. Why is it doing that? Because it's trying to protect a part of you that is scared that if it says no, it will not be loved. It's protecting that part because it thinks, oh, if I say no, I will be disapproved and maybe they will leave me. So it's scared of abandonment. There is something happening that it thinks the only strategy to keep a connection, a job, whatever it is there at stake, the only thing to keep it is to not be yourself and pretend to be someone else by saying yes to things that are a no, and that way betraying. So that seems like Resonates. Yes, I have it too. A lot. It's very common. A lot of people experience that. Another side of that is that from that part, another part can go and like, no, wall, never call me again, block your number, see you never, that's it, we are done, or whatever it is. But it comes, for example, in families, it happens a lot when, it's like, I'll tell my story. If I go home and my mom does something which in childhood she would do, but now I have boundaries, but I still am learning to do it, like, no, thank you, the namaste. I'm like, no, because she pushes the button and she knows how to push it because she's the one who put it there. So she knows the exact location of the button dial, right? So it's like, then I go like, no, mom, this is not how we do. My voice raises and I'm suddenly kind of like really very boundaried and absolutely like almost there's something else that's moving. It's not that calm, grounded, and like, no, thank you way. So there's a wall, and it's like, that's it. We cut this conversation short. So there's these polarized parts. And again, what this part is trying to protect is the same thing, because it fears being hurt. So it's like, if I reject, then I cannot be rejected. If I say no, then no one can hurt me. So I have to do that because before they do that to me. So they're both kind of protecting the same little exile, this little part that just fears of not being loved. So it's just they have different strategies. I'll pause here for a moment, not just on this topic, but are there any questions? And you can unmute or type in, or any realizations that are coming through at this stage. Okay. Then I'll continue, because then we'll do sharing, like also breakout rooms in a little bit. So second example is polarized parts, between one part wants to really go for it and build a thing and put herself out there and prove herself. Another part just wants to hide. So it's a very common inner conflict. Part of me wants to be seen, another part wants to hide what's going on. The intention of the part that's right here with hula hoops and standing on a ball is to gain approval, to be successful, to belong. Because it thinks if it doesn't do that, if it doesn't go all out, then people will see and understand that she's simply not good enough. So she tries very hard to succeed. And the part that wants to hide, she's like, let's not bother. Let's not go there. Let's avoid any possible exposure to criticism and hide. Because if I hide, I cannot be rejected, or people will never find out that I'm not enough because I'm hidden. But again, at the core is the same little exhale, just is feeling not good enough. So with that, in both of these cases, there's multiple examples. And also typically in polarization, when that happens, other parts that feel very deeply, parts that are firefighting, that are soothing, that are judging, and so on, they also come in. So it's very rarely a tango of two. It normally is like a feast of many that come in when it comes to parts. And that's why we call it systems. Internal family systems, because they all have a role and they all have sort of like a job to do in the system until they are unburdened, exhale is healed, met, loved, and taken and frozen from the time when it has been previously. Voila. We're not going to go into this today for purposes of time, and also I feel like I have been speaking a lot, but these are, I already summarized these managers, firefighters, exiles. There's some description in them, and the self, which is the core of your being. It's not a part. It's important to distinguish. It's not a part. It is something that is just this essence at the core of your being, which then communicates with parts. It's a compassionate leader. And there are no bad parts. There are parts which other parts might not prefer, and that's what causes other polarizations, but there are no bad parts. Actually, No Bad Parts is a book by Richard Schwartz, who is the creator of the system. And I highly recommend, if any of what I have shared today, I highly recommend to read that book or listen to an audiobook version. It's really, yeah, it's really easy to understand, I feel. And there's also some exercises which you can go through. Highly, highly, highly recommend. So the goal of IFS, in a nutshell, I feel like we already covered, is not to get rid of parts. It's to build relationship with self in order to allow self to lead. So it is a task of interaction. It's task of communication, of an inner dialogue that builds that trust. And then when parts understand and cooperate with each other, they can also ease the inner conflicts and take their healthy roles. So it is not like their energy just disappears in the souls, it transforms into healthy expression, and they take different roles. So for example, inner critic can become an advisor and still guide, or someone who wanted to hide, they can be kind of like a chief security officer and be like, okay, is this safe, and so on, and they can advise that way. Or for example, there is an overworking part, and then there kicks in some sort of like a little bit maybe part on the lazier side. So that lazy side actually was born and created after burnout. So she can then transmute and become a chief rest officer. So that's how we work in order to reassign different roles to parts once they have been healed and met and loved. This is a quote by Muji, who I love. He's a great meditation teacher and spiritual leader, who says, "Step into the fire of self-discovery. The fire will not burn you. It will only burn what you're not." So when we work with parts, it is really like that. We go into this fire. It's not easy. I said it before. It takes a lot of work. And then but there is nothing to be afraid of. It can feel scary to feel big feelings, but when those big feelings that have been stored in your body for years, sometimes centuries if they're ancestral, are felt, and your exiles and protectors trust yourself to ability to feel it, they can be transmuted, released, and that fire of self-discovery can burn only the burdens that you're not, so that you can be more of who you are. Think of it as fire that's cleansing all of these things that are not serving you, the hurting you, or behaviors that are really outdated, so that actually more life force can flow and you can create and interact with God, universe, source of all creation, whichever word you use, to manifest more, to connect more, to feel more joy. That's the point. Okay. On that note, let's do like that. Would you mind sharing in the group chat what dilemma or what was the thing that you journaled in the beginning? What's the question? What's the sticky point? The reason I'm asking that, I'm going to guide you into meditation, and it would help just to kind of know, and if there's anything that might be relevant that is in the group and that's present and alive, that we can address. So if everyone could take just a few minutes to drop in the chat what it is that is the question at this point. Business and self-expression and fear of being seen and responsibility. Yeah, that resonates. I'm struggling with the fact that I want to go out of my comfort zone business-wise, but also in my personal life. But I'm scared of rejection and failure at the same time. Today I decided to hide instead of putting myself out there. That's why I don't have camera. I'm sending love. And that's so understandable. Jamila, giving up on the old company, gathering all forces to rise from the ashes, building a life back in Germany where I come from, moving abroad fully with all consequences. Yeah, that's big decisions too. Sanjay, fear of judgment and failure. I'm not sure which direction to take my coaching business as I'm recovering from burnout. First of all, burnout is a big thing to recover from. So I hope you're being kind to yourself throughout as well. And yeah, there is still this need to share and perform and to share your business or establish your business, and that can be hard to do at the same time. Natalia, to try to find what to do. Yes, that's a question as well. Yeah, so in try to find what to do, I would invite, if there is any options, like part of you wants to do that, another part wants to do something else or is scared or something, try to think of it like option A, option B. So thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, as I just mentioned, what I would invite at this stage to really tune into, like, there is this part of me that wants to do one thing, another part wants to do the opposite. So for example, Yana share of like going all out and really establishing and sharing and so on, and then there is this fear of judgment. Yeah, so it's like these polarized parts. So pick one conflict, because we will just experiment with one at this stage, and yeah, see where it takes us. For now, just find a comfortable seated position and allow yourself to fully arrive here. Take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. And just go inside of yourself and bring to mind the dilemma you've been facing. Choose the one that feels the most alive right now. Once you have it, notice the two sides of this dilemma. Notice the parts of you that battle with each other. And just observe. And now notice, how do you feel towards the conflict itself? And how do you feel towards each side of the battle? If there are any feelings that are negative, like I'm just tired, or oh, I don't like this, or any form of rejection or resistance, just ask the part that resists or judges or feels certain way to step away for now and allow you to explore this conflict. We are going to get to know them one at a time. So for now, imagine asking one part to stay into a waiting room. Make sure it's safe, comfortable space where that part can rest. Let it know you'll be back, and it will also have a chance to share. Now turn toward the part that remains. And notice how you feel toward that part. Again, if there are any negative feelings, ask those parts that feel them to step away for you to build a relationship with the part that you're curious about. And now tell that part that you're here to simply listen. And just ask it, what do you want me to know about your position here? Why is it so important to you? Ask it, what are you afraid would happen if the other part took over? What are you scared of? You don't need to agree or disagree. You just let it know you hear it and see how it responds when it's being listened to. When it feels ready, you can thank this part or see whether there's anything else it wants to add. Let it know you'll return, but for now, invite it to step into its own waiting room, for it to step away into its own waiting room, a different waiting room. And now bring out the part that has been waiting. And we do the same with this part. We listen. So ask it to share as well. Ask it, what does it want you to know? about its perspective. And why does it matter so much to it? You can ask her, what are you afraid might happen if the first part had its way? Just listen openly, and you don't have to take sides. You just have to let it understand that you see where it's coming from. And now in this place, ask both parts if they would be willing to speak directly to one another. Let them know you'll stay with them as an observer, and you'll make sure the conversation stays respectful. If maybe one part isn't ready, that's okay. You can pause here. But if they are willing to do it, then invite them both in to sit with you. And to start with, just remind them that they're both part of you, so that they have that in common. And let them share what they need to say. Thank them for sharing what they have shared. And now see if it's a good time to introduce yourself to them. Just tell these parts how old you are. And maybe they want to see where you are right now. Invite them to the room you're in. Maybe share some achievements you've done and see how they respond. See what happens to them when they see you. Let them share. And now notice what is happening to the dilemma itself. When it feels complete, gently pause their discussion and thank these parts for showing up today. Let them know you'll return. And you might want to remind them that they don't have to carry the full weight of responsibility of making decisions anymore. They can advise, they can be your allies, and you, your current self, you are the decision maker. and see whether they can trust you with that, and notice how they respond. Remind them they can rest now. They can do what they feel like doing. Maybe they want to lay down, maybe they want to play. Allow them to do what feels best for them. And then in the meantime, thank them once more for showing up and sharing their wisdom with you. Take a deep breath in, sending more breath into the cells of your body, into the space you're in, into where you are right now. And by deepening your breath, you deepen the connection to your body, to the present moment, and to where you are right now. And when you feel ready, you can gently open your eyes. I would invite you to, just for now, take a moment of stillness and silence and journal. I'll put the questions in the chat for you to explore. So, what situation you explore, you already know. What did you notice about your parts, and what surprised you if you were able to get into the parts? If not, and you have any questions of what came up, please feel free to message in the chat. In the meantime, we're just going to give a minute to everyone to come back to the present moment and to, arrive here to see whether there has been any clarity or you notice a dilemma shift a little bit. It's okay if not. So it's journal or question time for the next minute and a half. And after that, we'll share. Okay. And now, does it matter on which sides where we see the parts, feminine, masculine? It can have a meaning, yes. It's a whole different tangent, the sensations in the body, where we feel them, where we notice them, how they come up. It's it's a very somatic practice. Today we don't have time to dive into it. I mentioned briefly where it is first doorway actually to recognizing a part is to sensing where we feel it in our body. And different, of course, energetic centers carry different meaning. Different parts of our body carry different meaning, feminine, masculine, but it's still very individual. In IFS, we don't diagnose as practitioners. It is what it represents to you, at what meaning and what you maybe you have felt before when something happens, this part activates. So it's very, very individual, but definitely would invite you to pay attention to when things present with curiosity. And then you're also in self, like, oh, interesting, it's in my throat, or it's in my solar plexus. Oh my God, my back has been hurting for a good while. Like, what I've been carrying? So all of that is messengers. And then you pay attention to these questions of, when have I felt you first? What does it remind me? What does it remind me of? And you go and meet, like, hey, what do you want me to know? Trust the flashbacks, trust the memories, trust the visions, trust the smell. Sometimes it's like when I tune in there, I start smelling the someone's perfume, or like burning sensation. All body holds immense wisdom, and it's really deep invitation to pay attention to that. Thank you for the question. I will put you in breakout rooms of 3 right now, and the discussion points are the ones I shared in the chat. So what was that you explored? What came up? Was there any clarity? Absolutely no shame or blame if nothing came up, or maybe it didn't resonate, or there was some difficulties, but please share. Sometimes it helps putting words to it. Clarity can come that way as well. And invitation for those who are sharing, you're sharing your experience, and those who are listening, they're receiving. You're not there to advise, because we're just there holding space. However, if it feels that everyone has shared in a row their experiences, then you can discuss in the group what was interesting, how was it, but we don't go like, what you should do, what we can share our experiences. Is that an agreement? Yeah, amazing. So groups of 3, it's going to be 9 minutes, so it is 3 minutes each, or if it's shorter, absolutely fine, then it's just a group roundtable discussion. And I will see you back in 9. Henrietta? Henrietta, are you still online?
Bye. Right.
Hello. Hello. Hello, hello. I love how from breakout rooms, everyone comes back smiling, typically. Okay, we're back. I saw Mara and Ines in your group. Someone left, right? It was just the two of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Welcome back. I wonder how it was to share and whether there was something that came up in group which was similar, or how did you find this experience? Not everyone needs to share, but if someone has something to maybe, a reflection to bring to the group or something that you feel open to share would be very useful, because when we hear others go through experience, it makes us feel less alone. Then I'll call out Jamila. See you're nodding. Oh, Natalia, sorry. I didn't
Just
see
I
hand.
understand when it is a dilemma. It was the dilemma about different kind of activities, what to choose to do. And I
Mhm.
had a big pressure here. And I understand it's like something blocking me of doing both. And I understood if I had dilemma, I just stop making a choice and just doing nothing, like a kind of procrastination if I'm not sure what to do, or some pain or some fear, sorry, or something like this. Just blocking myself, and I try to concentrate on
Mhm.
breathe in and breathe out, to let it go and to find the balance, and try to find the time for one activity and for another activities, because in some case they are important for me.
Beautiful. So you noticed a pressure, so a sensation here, and then you mentioned something about the procrastinator part.
It should be when I don't know what to do, I stop doing.
Yeah. So yeah, it
I
does
do
sound like it.
nothing. I do nothing at all and try to find something which is more pleasant for me, like enjoying life. I don't know.
Yeah. I would invite you to get to know that procrastinator as well. It's like because every part of us is trying to protect. It's like, what is it? Scared to make a wrong choice? Is it scared to be judged? Because
Yeah,
it's nice
judge
to
my dear.
pause. It's nice to pause, but then when a self poses, it has a very calm feeling. It doesn't have this search. It has curiosity and openness, but when it's kind of like do nothing and procrastinate, it's apart. So just to also know like a little distinction there.
And what to do?
To get to
Not
know,
to
ask what.
procrastinate. Not to procrastinate next
No,
time.
to speak to the part directly. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
now we are procrastinating. What are we protecting ourselves from? What do you think will happen if I make a
From
choice?
failure, from failure, from some negative experience,
Exactly.
not to be judged, and so on.
Exactly. So it's trying to protect from all of these things, which is kind of good, but then it also keeps you stuck and it can procrastinate for as long
Yeah.
until you get blue in the face. So this is what I mean is the purpose of this work. It's not to go along with the parts, but to get so curious about them and see. And then what happens? And what happens if you fail? It's a
Nothing.
it's a question
Just
to ask to that part because it thinks
yeah,
something will happen.
yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. I will think about this, but it
Yeah.
was very helpful
Actually, as
for
my
me.
teacher says, don't think, ask the part, it will tell you.
Don't, could you repeat it, please?
Don't think, ask the part.
Thanks.
Because even the thinking is analytical part. It will start analyzing. It's like, oh, maybe this. It's actually ask the part. This is what I meant building connections with the parts. It's this balance between of understanding that the one that analyzes, the one that actually maybe is even activated now, it's like, oh, but this is how I am. Of course, these are all parts. These are parts of the behavior which they it's the only way how they know, and they're doing their best. So it's like, oh, thank you for protecting me. I get it, thank you. Without you, I would be not safe. You think that, but tell me what you think will happen. I will fail, and then what? And if I fail, what happens? Okay, I'm homeless, and then what? And then what? And then what? And then it uncovers the real fears. And when those are lifted, that's when we go deeper into this work by lifting and freeing them from these fears by working directly with exhales as well. And then unburdening happens, and suddenly clarity arises naturally, without force, without overthinking, because I guarantee no good thing comes from overthinking.
I'll try. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. And I'm not sharing this just that, I'm sharing it also for the group, because I think we all have procrastinator, we have the overthinker, we have all of these parts. They're very common experiences. So please don't take it as a just this. It's for the benefit of all of us and our parts. Did someone resonate with this dilemma too, of the procrastinator? Yeah, we all have it. So thank you so much for bringing it up. Okay, is there anyone else who feels to share their voice and their parts?
I would actually love to ask something.
Yes, of course.
I couldn't fully finish my sharing in our little group, and it's exactly the question I have, because I noticed getting very tired, and I'm not sure if this is also like kind of a what's that, like a not a compensation, but like a hiding strategy, like a wanting to get away strategy that is happening internally when I kind of come closer to a knowing or fear or a solution or whatsoever. Do you
Yes.
resonate?
Yes, it's a very good question. The answer is like, I wouldn't know, but you can check in. Check in. It's like, okay, where do I feel tiredness in my body? Okay, I feel it, for example, in my eyes, my forehead, or wherever you do. And then ask, are you apart? And why are you tired? What you're afraid might happen if we go there? And just watch the tiredness lift. But also, I think Ines and I were doing this work together. She's been my coaching container, and it's very tiring to work with parts. Because what happens as well, there is the energy that starts moving, and we go deep into the subconscious and we rewire something that has been there a very long time. And then when we meet the parts and actually start getting closer, it rewires something in a very deep subconscious level. And then it's like neural pathways are forming. It's extreme effort from the whole being to do that. And then once we finish the session or work or going deep, then there is there's just this feeling like I need to sleep for 5 years and please never call me again. So I'm still glad Ines comes to sessions, but it's very tiring.
Yeah.
And it's very normal to feel tired. But asking whether it's a part, it's good. It's a good hunch you had that it might be.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. Okay. Well, yes, camera on. There she is.
Yeah, I'm really tired because I've been sleeping all day, basically, because of all the work we've been doing. So yeah, I just wanted to ask about like those two parts that we just met. So none of them are the exile. So it means, I mean, does it mean that we also have to like, I mean, for those two parts to like kind of completely stop doing this? Do we have to also meet the exile, or
Yeah, sometimes parts and burden, and I think it can be depending on the role they're carrying and how extreme they want. Sometimes you're like, what are you afraid might happen? And they're like, oh, you will look like a fool. And then they meet you they see that actually you're pretty cool, and then they're like, oh, actually I don't want to do that anymore, and then they unburden and they're actually free, and then they become something else in the system, or they just dissipate, and you just notice suddenly a behavior that has been there for a while, it just, or the inner dialogue goes or quietens or shifts or something else starts happening, it just stops occurring. So it can happen just by meeting the protector, and they're so happy to be acknowledged that they stop that behavior. Exiles is something we are not touching because it's also like not going deep in, because it's not safe to go there in a group setting, because they are very, very vulnerable parts of ourselves that really carry shame, guilt, very deep pain of not enoughness, not being lovable, and so on. So they're very, very vulnerable. So that work can really effectively happen only one-on-one. And when we start meeting exiles, like we often get access to them through some very extreme protectors that are trying to do very, very hard. But in order to get to that exile and hear that, like, I will feel unlovable, is through these questions. It's like, what do you think will happen if you don't do your job? For example, if in case of being seen, it's like, I want to hide, because if people see me, they will know how not enough I am. So that's really painful. And that's the belief exile holds. So doing deeper work, as you know, then we go into those parts and then meet them and take them out of the situation which was dangerous, take them out into the present moment and rewire that the way where they see an alternative could have happened, a boundary could have been set, or they could just have had a different experience. This is where a work of a lot of therapeutic approaches comes in as well, like Gestalt therapy, the empty chair system, where our psyche doesn't know the difference between imagined occurring and a real occurring, because all of that is in the past and stored. So actually part of this work, then working deeper with it, is by going into parts and taking them out and giving them a different experience, and for them the caretaker they didn't have or protection they didn't have, and that's why protectors had to step in, is given by you, by grown up you today, giving them love, acknowledgement, nourishment, safety that they didn't have in the moment when the trauma occurred. Yeah.
Thank you for answering.
Thank you for asking. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for your courage. And yeah, this goes a lot deeper, and this is how much we can really go into in this time and space that we have had. If you feel curious about this work, I can share a few ways how I share it. I offer clarity sessions. I don't often open slots just for one-off session. I do it maybe every 3 months or so. But right now, after this workshop, if someone wants to go and meet a part that maybe is coming up, or the dilemma has been stuck and maybe this in a group setting hasn't been so helpful, so we go a lot deeper. And in that time, we see where the blocks are, what other parts are presenting. And if anything feels kind of like stuck and energy needs to be moved, I'm going to open and I'm just going to send the time slots to those who have been signed up for the workshop just to explore it. But I also have a few things coming up. And this is the most accessible way. So you'll see the price, it's €149. Then I have some events coming up, which are actually something that I have deep passion for. So these are in-person events with a lot of human connection, with a lot of coming together and doing this work, not just in spaces, our homes, but really something happens when we come in person over nourishing food in a beautiful setting together. So it's a 2-day immersion here in Ibiza. I've just done retreat, the Turning Point retreat. So it's basically a program of a retreat I run, but in a much more affordable way, because it's over 2 days, it's intense, because normally it's spread in 5 days, and then there is like yoga and so on. Here we are really focusing on deep inner work. September 6 and 7 in Ibiza, in the most gorgeous setting. This is the setting where it's taking place. So what we're going to have there is also breath work, so meeting these parts and then somatically releasing them. It's very beautiful combination. There will be also IFS work, human design. Everyone is going to receive report, decision-making workshop. There is also going to be a workshop on your deepest longing, understanding what it is that you truly want and building your vision. So it's kind of deep inner work with co-creation with the universe, with somatic practices. And because this is a 2-day intensive, so it's not like a 2,000 euro, 2,500 euro retreat or 5 days, it's only 450 euro early bird until tomorrow. But I'm going to give the group a few days of extra discount of 50. So basically 400 euro for the group who have been or who is watching the replay as well. For the Turning Point immersion. I have another event in October, which I'm not going to go into now, but if October dates, it's 3rd and 4th, might be more interesting, just reach out. And then the deepest work that we do is the 4th month container of one-on-one mentorship. So this is application only, and it's quite deep. So if you feel called to go on a journey, and this is specifically for those ready to answer the calling. So it's more of a business container for those who are ready to share their voice and work one-on-one, combining deep inner work with outer expression. So these are options. Feel free to message me on Instagram, email, anywhere you found me, WhatsApp. Happy to answer any questions. Would love to join me in person somewhere. And if not, we'll stay in touch online. And I'm once again so grateful for your courage. Whoops, I left. So, but I'm back. My camera might not be back yet, but I'm putting my hand to my heart. Sorry, this happens to my camera when I disconnect and reconnect. I don't know what to do with it, but very, very grateful. Thank you so much for everyone's presence. I'm back. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Where is retreat going to be on the 6th and the 7th of September? Where the place?
Ibiza.
Oh, it's nice. And in October, it would be for more than 2 days, as far as I understood.
No, both of them are 2 days and they're immersions. So they're lower price point, but it means that the workshops and the lunches, so it's like a full day program of a workshop and lunch. We start like around 10 and finish around 5 or 6. But then the accommodation is not, so it's not a retreat, it's an immersion. So it's more affordable because then you can also find accommodation within your budget and so on. So it's something that I'm doing this September.
So accommodation doesn't include in this price, am I right?
No, it's just the workshops and exquisite lunches in a luxurious restaurant and the stunning location where we are doing it. It really is something to explore.
Okay.
I'll share everything after the call. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can you repeat the name of the book that you mentioned earlier about the IFS?
Yes, No Bad Parts.
What is it?
No Bad Parts.
No Bad Parts. Okay.
Yes.
And the author?
Richard Schwartz.
Thank you.
Thank you. He sometimes goes by Dick Schwartz, so Dr. Dick Schwartz. Yeah. He's the founder of the system. Thank you. Well, those who are in Ibiza. Yes? Someone else is chatting? It was, yeah, okay. Well, those who are in Ibiza, I hope to see you around. And yeah, feel free to reach out. I will be looking forward to hear from you. And thank you once again. Enjoy your evening and we stay in touch.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.